So just for a moment, sticking with the cruiserweights, where does it leave Chris Billam-Smith and Richard Riakporhe?
Fighting for the wooden spoon. I think Richard Riakporhe, I think we wanted him to win more than he wanted him to win, because after losing to Chris Billam-Smith, you know, I'm looking, thinking, where's the hunger? Where's the desperation? And I said before the Chris Billam-Smith fight, I know Richard Riakporhe's got the talent, but he's just got to prove it.
Yeah.
He's just got to prove it. And I just think appetite-wise, it's not there.
Yeah.
So he'll get so far. The appetite, the fight, you could see in the fight, it's not there.
Is it appetite with Richard Riakporhe? Because I sat next to the guy that mentors all the time, and I remember watching him fighting Glowacki and knocking him out, and he's going, this is the change. He believes in himself now. He believes in himself.
And again, it's like going back to AJ all over again. If you believe in yourself today, believe in yourself tomorrow. Yeah. You can't go in there tomorrow and think, oh, I'm not really feeling it. I think the appetite is the hunger that is needed to conquer at the top. It's not there. And I love Richard. Richard's a cool guy. And all that.
I like him a lot as well.
I just think there's something missing. It's like having a cake.
Do you think it's like distractions outside of boxing? He's got this big modelling career and he does something in his mind maybe on other things, and you lose that little bit of hunger maybe that's needed to get you over the line into that next level.
It could make all the difference. In regard to Chris Billam-Smith, I think he's overachieved and he deserves everything he's
all the credit in
done.
the world, yeah.
He's deserved everything he's done, but he's overachieved, this young man. And so I just think to put him up there with these guys, I think...
You never know. If you get a unified fight for an undisputed cruiserweight champion, after that the belts are going to get scattered. So you never know if the timing of it works out. You could find Chris Billam-Smith winning a belt again because Opataya, despite the fact that we think that he possibly shouldn't, may find himself as a heavyweight. And then what you're left with? You're left with a landscape of no superstars.
The other thing is this, Chris Billam-Smith gets hit too often, too cleanly.
Hard,
yeah.
And in our sport, it will retire him earlier than it should do.
I think, listen, when you're looking at Chris Billam-Smith, though, and you look at those ingredients we've been talking about with maybe someone like Richard Riakporhe or whatever else, you go, one thing that Chris Billam-Smith does do is he grafts, man. He works and he fights like a challenger all the time, and he's hungry.
But just out of curiosity,
Shane McGuigan does a great job with
we've
it.
had him on the show, Spence. Lions in the room. Anthony Yarde, he's talking about, not fighting Josh Boazzi because it's Josh Boazzi's fault. He's fighting Callum Smith now. but he's now talking about potentially being open to the idea, as was Tundi, of going up to cruiserweight. Do you like that for Anthony Yarde?
It's Lions in the camp, by the way.
No.
Lions in the camp?
Yeah.
All right, thanks for that.
No, I don't. I think, obviously looking at his last fight, I think if you're going to take that up to cruiserweight, you're going to be on the wrong end of a shellacking. You've got to be consistent. You've got to use your skill, use your talent. Anthony Yarde's a good fighter. But you can't take that kind of mentality performance up to cruiserweight. Maybe it was an off night, but put him in with an Opataya will ruin it.
Well, I think the big problem that he has is size. Size is a huge problem because, look at him, he's very short, squat, very muscular.
Yeah.
But when that jump now from light heavyweight to cruiserweight is significant.
I used to be tall at cruiserweight. Now these cruiserweights, I look up, I'm thinking, what is going on here? So Anthony Yarde in that division, you know what? You might be able to chop your Billam-Smith down, but then again, you got to think you're getting in with some big units that can bang, that will put it on you.
Right, we've got the announcement that's been reverberating ad infinitum for the last 2 years, which is the Eubank Benn fight. It's good to go, April this year. Johnny, reaction to that?
We said it off camera. I'm going to ask you again.
Are you going to ask him if he's going? Are you going?
No.
I need to understand. I need to understand the position. I need to understand the position of the British Boxing Board of Control. I've not heard anything, and so if they write it off, say sign it off, there you go. So what does that mean? What is that telling us? What is their explanation for this? Because again, it's just pushing things under the carpet. I rate Conor Benn. I think this guy was probably one of the most talented, fast improving fighters we've ever got going. But if you're going to do a rule, make sure the rule exists and explain to people what's going on. What is happening? What's the Boxing Board of Control saying?
I think they're quite clear, aren't they? I think they are not in a position, if he applies for a British Boxing Board of Control licence, not to give it. And so as a result of that, they'll give him the licence. And whatever people think about it, and people will run around, without us seeming like we're obsessed, they'll run around and say that he's been cleared. I think that he's been he's being allowed to fight. Being allowed to fight and being cleared are two different things.
Yeah.
Even Eddie, at his most obtuse, playing hide and seek with himself, knows that there's not been an answer to 2 failed drugs tests. The gift is Conor's to be able to release the findings. They keep on hiding behind confidentiality. We've all now discovered that if you want to, Conor can give permission for the findings to be put into the public domain. I suspect he doesn't want to do that because it won't give you quite the exoneration. But we now have the fight and all that goes with it. When you look at that fight, put aside the principles of, and the British Boxing Board of Control will need to learn lessons. I suspect they've been let down by UKAD. I suspect they need to tighten their rules up and have better governance. And I'm sure Robert Smith will have that vantage point and learn some lessons from it, because I don't think he'll feel that it was handled the way it should have been.
But now they've set precedent, because what stopped this from happening again?
Well, but precedents are as good as the legislation that you put in place. So if they change the legislation and they change the amount of governance, then that precedent will become irrelevant to some extent, because the governance will supersede it. But when we think about the fight, irrespective of what the objections might be, I'm not going to go, irrespective of being invited by Turki Al-Sheikh, because it makes me a hypocrite. I've been sitting there saying I don't like this fight. I don't like it for Conor Benn. I don't think it. The only interest for me is the lineage of their parents, and I don't think that should be the blueprint for a fight. I understand the tourist and the casual fan wanting to watch it. I'm not going to go watch it. But when you look at the fight, who do you think wins this fight, Johnny?
Initially, I would have said Conor Benn, because of his aggressive style. I think looking at Chris Eubank, I think his style is, you've got to be busier to fight Conor, because otherwise Conor's going to find you. The problem is Conor's not been consistent enough to put on a performance that's going to realistically put Chris under pressure. So again, it makes this fight so even. It's so even because you can see 1-1 and win over over. You look at style, you think Conor would do him. But Chris, the naturally bigger fighter, the one that's been more consistent in his career, common sense would tell you to lean towards that.
Even though we saw Chris getting beat by Liam Smith.
But you know what? The fact that Chris has been busier, he's been out there, he's performed publicly. We've seen him get turned over, then turned it back round. Conor, we haven't seen any chinks in the armour. We've just seen him improve massively. My worries for him is the fact that he's been inactive. And so he's coming in on a big stage. So he's got to hope, after all this time of inactivity, he produces an A-class performance.
It's a needs must as well, isn't it? Because I don't know if you agree with this, Johnny. If Conor Benn loses, he has, despite the pride of the family name, he has the ability to cite the fact he's gone up 2 weight classes and he can go back down to 147.
Yeah.
If Chris Eubank loses this, he goes nowhere.
Nowhere to go.
It's career over for Chris. There's a lot on the line for Chris Eubank Jr. because it's at his weight division. And I think that they've been very clever matchrooming or people involved in putting this fight together, because they've got the rehydration clause in there. And I think as Chris is getting older, there's no secret that he struggles to make 160. So making that weight and the rehydration clause and all of that involved is it's a real 50-50, because Conor is coming up. Yes, he's stronger. Inactivity doesn't go in his favour. But we just don't know where Eubank Jr. is in his career yet. That margin slower than what he used to be may be the difference.
Needing dough, it would seem.
Well, that might be the key motivator with in this fight for Chris. But I'll go to it. I'll definitely go and watch it. I know.
No, I understand it.
Yeah,
I understand it.
I'll definitely go and watch it because I think
we'll have him there, mate. He'll come.
Regardless if it was in the York Hall, I'd go and watch this fight because I think it's a good. It's a
spectacle.
Watch, yeah.
It's a spectacle. Right, fellas, that's it for episode 104 of Talk Boxing. Spencer, thank you. Johnny, lovely to see you. And we'll see you guys next time we're out.